Hello and welcome to video 9 of this series. In today's video I'm going to be talking about our spirit guides and how we can learn to connect with them and communicate with them. In almost all religious and spiritual traditions, we are required to develop a certain faith in what we cannot see. Now, the invisible world is particularly vivid and rich in shamanic cultures, where the shamans communicate with the nature spirits. They are assisted by their own power animals. And of course, they are guided and helped by the ancestors and their spiritual teachers on a daily basis. In more traditional religious traditions, I think we're all encouraged to communicate directly with God through prayer. In some religions, perhaps through the angel Mary or the archangel Michael, but we are encouraged to use prayer as a form of communication with the invisible world. In Buddhism, there's the chanting that they do before rituals, meditative practices. They can chant for assistance, for aids. They can communicate with the bodhisattvas, the Buddhists who have already arrived in the upper world. But we can say that angels exist in all religions and spiritual mythologies. And there are many sorts of angels with hierarchies, etc. Today we're going to be talking about one's guardian angel, which is our personal spirit guide, who is with us all our lives, from the moment that we take our very, very first breath to the moment when we make our transition at the end of our lives. The guardian angel is there to protect our soul and to accompany us as we go through our learning journey on earth. So whatever faith or spiritual tradition you may believe in, it's pretty safe to say that we are all surrounded by invisible, luminous beings, benevolent spirits who are here to help us. And often all we need to do is to ask for help. But we need to learn how to do this. And today we're going to be learning how to connect and communicate with our personal spirit guide or our guardian angel. So the best way to start is to create sacred space. Now, I've probably discussed this in previous videos, but to create our own private, personal, sacred space, we need to do it in our own ways. Everyone is different. Everyone will have a way that is authentic to him or to her. The best way, I think, that you can start is by finding a space in your home, for example, that is completely private and where you know that you will not be disturbed. Don't forget to turn off your mobile phone and start to really create a lovely, sacred environment. You might like to light a candle. A candle can be symbolic on so many levels. You might like to cleanse the room by opening the window and allowing sunshine and fresh air to come in. Or if it's not the right time of year to do that, you might like to get a sage stick and to smudge the different corners of the room and to cleanse in that way. Some people like to light some incense. But whatever you do, just do what resonates with you and feels authentic. I suggest that the next thing we need to do before we set our intention to communicate with our guide, we've created the sacred space. We need to change our state, because so often we're in a busy state, a state where the mind is going at 100 miles an hour with all the thoughts coming in and out and in and out. We need to calm down from that state. We need to lower our brain waves and get into a more meditative state of being. And to do this, the most effective way that we can do this is by altering our breathing. Now, in previous videos, I'm sure I've discussed this breathing method that I recommend to all my clients and that I use myself to change into that calm and receptive state. Is very, very simple. I'll repeat it again here. You breathe in to a count of 3, and then at the top of the breath you pause for a few seconds. Then you exhale through the mouth to a count of 5. And when you reach the bottom of the breath, you pause again for a few seconds before starting again. Inhaling to a count of 3, pausing for a few seconds, exhaling to a count of 5, and pausing for a few seconds. So let's just try that together now, and you'll actually begin to see for yourself how in just a minute or so it can actually very, very noticeably change your state, make you more relaxed and more receptive. So you might like to close your eyes as we do this, or not, it's up to you. So we're going to get ready to really inhale deeply right down to the belly, to the count of 3. Off we go. 1, 2, 3. Pausing at the top of the breath for a few seconds and exhaling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pausing again at the bottom of the breath for a few seconds. Now inhaling. 1, 2, 3. Pausing and holding the breath. And a deep exhale now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pausing again here for a few seconds. Inhaling. 1, 2, 3. Pausing a few seconds here at the top of the breath. And exhaling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pausing. We'll do it one more time now. Inhaling. 1, 2, 3. Pausing at the top of the breath again. And a deep exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, already you probably are feeling a difference. You're probably feeling that you've passed into a parasympathetic state. You've become more calm. And if you repeat this just for a few, I would say 3 or 4 minutes, just slightly longer than what we've done here, but just 3 or 4 minutes, you will really become in an altered state that will enable you to pick up the subtle signs and messages that will come from when you connect with your spirit guide. Now, once we've established we've got the sacred space, we've done the breathing and gotten our beautiful altered receptive state of calmness, now is the time to set our intention to speak with our spirit guide. And again, you do this in your own way. It can be as simple as, Spirit guide, please come into our sacred space and show me that you are present. Or whatever words resonate with you, because we're all different. But we need to really believe that our spirit guide, who's always present, is there anyway. But it's sometimes really good to ask for a sign. Now, our guardian angel exists behind us, just behind our backs, always there, always present, just behind your backs. And the guardian angel never interferes unless we ask for help directly, or unless we are in a very, very dire state and need special, urgent support and help. So I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me over 25 years ago now, when I was very young and very different, didn't really have much interest or experience with the spiritual world at all. And I was going through a period in my life, it's probably the most traumatic period I have ever experienced in my life. It was a period of loss, of abandonment, of total confusion and bewilderment. And to make matters worse, I was on my own. I was in a foreign land. I was very far away from my friends and family. And I just was completely disorientated and just so lost and so alone and so devastated by the events that had happened to me. And on this particular day, because I found a lot of solace by walking in nature, and on this particular day I walked up quite a steep hill, and there was an abandoned chapel at the top of the hill. And just beyond this chapel there was a group of trees, very, very secluded place. And I sat down there and I started to weep. I was just inconsolably sobbing my heart out. I could not stop. And I just felt completely abandoned and lost and unloved and so isolated. And then all of a sudden, in a split second, I was invaded by a sense of love and peace that I cannot describe. It's something that you only experience a few times in your life, I think. And it was an extraordinary moment. And instantly I stopped crying. My sobs just stopped and I was calm. I was just completely in a serenity and peaceful state. And at the same time, at the same moment, I felt these strong arms from behind my back enveloping me, holding me in a protective embrace. Now, I say strong arms, or they could have been wings, but that of course depends on you and your faith and how you interpret what happens. But for me, this was extremely real. Nothing could be more real, and I remember it so clearly to this day. And that was my first experience of my guardian angel, and I was in such a state that he made his presence felt, and I was surrounded by love and protection. And since then, when I've been in very difficult situations, when I've had very dire health problems and so on, he's been there for me again. But most of the time, I ask to communicate, and we communicate, we connect, because I have instigated it. Because our angels, they don't want to interfere. They just want to be present for when we need them and when we turn to them for help. And so today we're learning how we can begin to connect, make that initial connection. Now, some people, when they feel their guardian angel, I always feel whenever I begin to connect to him or her, they are of course without gender, but I will say with him, I feel this presence behind my spine and coming across like hands on my shoulders or wings coming around me. Some people feel a frisson going up their base of the spine all the way up to the top of their heads. Some people have other intuitive feelings. No one is the same, but you will begin, the more frequently you contact your guide, you will begin to really notice and completely know intuitively that your guide is there, present, waiting to communicate with you. So really it could be a question of saying, welcome spirit guide, please come and join me here. Let me know that you are here. And with repetition and practice, you will feel that presence. Now, we normally feel that we need to communicate with our guide or our guardian angel if we have a real problem that we need to solve or an issue that's worrying us that we need some guidance. So we have to be very careful how we communicate, what sort of questions that we ask. It's not great to ask a question that requires a definite yes or a definite no answer, because we tend to receive the messages from our guide on a symbolic level very often. Sometimes it's more direct, yes, but often it can be in the form of a metaphor or in the form of an image or some intuitive perception that we need to interpret. So a yes or no question isn't the way forward. Really open-ended questions are best, like, what would be the result, do you think, if I take this action? What do I need to change for my highest good? Or what do I need to understand now in this instance? And then just wait for however long it takes. You may not get a response straight away. It may not come like a little voice in your ear. It could come in any manner of ways, in sort of an intuitive perception, or it could come even hours later after you've made the communication. So don't be disappointed. It can even come, and often does come, in your nighttime dreams. So you may have no evident response from your guide, but then that night or the following night you will have an extraordinarily vivid dream, which could be absolutely full of symbolic meaning and messages. So we need to learn how to communicate and to interpret the signs and signals and messages that the guides give us. So we should never compare it to a simple chat with a friend on the phone or with a neighbour over the fence. It's not going to be necessarily a question and then an answer. And don't be disappointed. And remember that with repetition, you will start to learn to communicate and to interpret every single sign. And don't discount anything that may come up. You might think, oh, that's ridiculous. No, everything can be full of meaning. And so to that end, I recommend to all my clients to keep a journal when they communicate with their guides. And each time that you've communicated with your guide, your personal guide or guardian angel, keep a note of absolutely everything that comes up afterwards. It could be a flash or a memory, or an intuitive perception, or a strong physical feeling, or any kind of impression, or anything that is out of the ordinary. Because all of these things that are out of the ordinary in particular are full of potential meaning. And jotting them down in a journal every single time, you'll be able to look at that journal and start to interpret clearly how your guide is communicating with you and what the messages really are. And you'll also be, through looking at your journal and for keeping this journal regularly every time you communicate with your guide, you will start to be able to see your own personal spiritual growth and evolution through this communication with your guide. Now, always remember that if you ask for help, help will always be given to you. You may not always get what you ask for. You may not always get what you want or what you expect, but you will certainly always receive exactly what you need for your continuing growth and spiritual evolution. So don't be discouraged. Repeat the experience. Keep your journal, and remember that help is always there, and our guide, our guardian angels, just there behind us. They've got our back. So I hope that these basic tips for learning to connect with your guardian angel or your personal spirit guide have been useful for you. Don't forget to persevere, and let me know how you get on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.